Doing this will forever change the way that you shoot. As beginners, you're often told that the only way to shoot is in manual. If you don't shoot in manual, then you're not a real photographer. You should just sell your camera and give up. But this is simply not true. I feel like as a beginner, it's very important that you learn how to shoot in manual. It's very important to know what does what and how your settings work. But it's also very useful to learn how to shoot in other modes. One of my favorite modes, and a mode that a lot of pros shoot in as well, is aperture priority. A lot of new cameras have this mode. If you're not sure, then check the dial on top of your camera. If it has an A, that means it has aperture priority. What does this mode do exactly? Well, it's kind of in the name. So in aperture priority, you have full control over your aperture, and all the rest, so your shutter speed and your ISO, the camera will handle. So basically you have full control over your depth of field, and you can change it according to your creative needs, and the camera does the rest. This is going to save you a lot of time messing with settings, and it's really useful in situations where you have to act fast. For what I do, it's extremely useful. So I do a lot of street and travel photography. When I started out, I would shoot in manual a lot, and something would happen and I would completely miss the moment because I would be messing with my settings. So with aperture priority, you don't have this as much. All you pretty much have to worry about is shooting the camera, adjust everything accordingly, so you won't miss that moment again. Probably thinking, well, what about shutter speed? If my shutter speed is too low and I'm tracking a subject, then we get blurry or I will miss focus. And what about my ISO? If my ISO goes too high, then my picture will be full of noise. Now, luckily, a lot of modern cameras have a setting where you can choose a minimum shutter speed and a maximum ISO. So I myself shoot with a Sony. I have a Sony a7 IV, so I'm quickly going to show you how to change those settings on a Sony camera. If you have a different camera, just look it up on Google. It's really not that hard. Okay, so first of all, very important, make sure that your camera is in aperture priority. You can do this by changing the dial to A, otherwise this isn't going to work. Once you have that done, then you will go into menu, click your menu, and then over here, so you have the pink one, number 1, exposure, you will see ISO auto minimum shutter speed. So you click this, and here you can change the ISO minimum. So I think a good baseline is 1/250, because then when you're shooting street photography, for instance, and you want to capture people walking, it will still freeze them. So I think ISO 1/250 is a decent baseline. So over here you can also set the range limit of your ISO. So just click it, and over here you can choose the minimum and the maximum. So when you're shooting, it's very important that your ISO right here says auto. So make sure you're in this mode. So there's a couple of ways to change this. What you can do is you can press Fn, then go to ISO. Over here you can set it to auto, or you can just do it with your dial as well. So you dial it all the way back till it's at the lowest possible ISO, and the one past that is auto. Here's another quick tip I can give you. So a lot of new cameras, they have custom modes. My Sony a7 IV, for instance, has custom dial 1, 2, and 3. So now what I like to do is I like to set these dials to different settings according to what situation in terms of lighting that I run into. So what I will do, for instance, I will set dial 1 for low light situations. In this custom mode, my shutter speed will be 1/50 and my ISO will be 16,000 max. Then I will set dial 2 for more cloudy or more normal type of days in terms of lighting. So I'll set my shutter speed to 1/250, and my ISO I will keep the same, around 10 or 16,000. Then with dial 3 I will set my settings for situations where I run into harsh light when I'm shooting on a really sunny day. So in that situation I will put my shutter speed to 1/500, and I will leave the ISO the same, so 10 to 16,000 max. Having these 3 dials is going to save me even more time, and it makes it so I can adjust accordingly really fast. For instance, I'll be walking down the street, it's really sunny, I will change to mode 3. Then for instance, I'm walking somewhere inside or somewhere that's covered, I can change to mode 1. Then for instance, the sun is hiding behind the building, there's a lot of shadow, then we'll change to mode 2. Let me show you how to set the custom dials. For this video we'll do dial 2, So make sure it's on the 2. Then make sure you have the settings like you want them, like I did in the previous video where I explained. So for this setting, I will do it 1/250 and the ISO to 16,000 max. Once I have that set, we'll go to the red icon right here, then go to shooting mode, and then go to camera set memory. Over here, I'm going to press slot 2, and now it's registered. So now if I change from manual to slot 2, my settings will automatically be set, so I can start shooting straight away. There's one thing to keep in mind though: aperture priority isn't perfect. So in situations where the light changes a lot, your brightness of your images is also going to change accordingly. So you might end up with images that are more bright, images that are a little bit less bright. So the camera handles it pretty well, but it still makes small mistakes. So for situations where I need more control, I will just switch to manual. It kind of depends on the situation. You kind of have to test a little bit and see what works, but it's really useful, trust me. For street and travel photography, I'm mostly in aperture priority because it allows me to focus on what's actually important, which is storytelling. If you want to improve your photography, then stop worrying about perfect settings and start chasing those moments. If this helped you, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.